This webinar is on using current photonics students to recruit new students. I just asked the question if you're satisfied with your level of student enrollment, and I hope 95% of you are not, and I'm pretty sure you're not. As you know, from a national standpoint, we've got 30 of our colleges producing less than 400 completers in 2016. That means, on average, less than 13 completers per college. As you know, our data very consistently are saying that employers across the country need over 800 new ones. So we've got a long ways to go in completing that and closing that gap. Certainly adding more colleges will help, but building enrollment is the fastest thing to do, and it's important for many, many reasons. In the last 3 or 4 years, OP-TEC colleges have had less than 15 students enrolled, most of them. 2 colleges are closing their programs right now because they've had low enrollments. They're only teaching the second year. And we've had to restore 7 already, and we really hate to see any of that happen, and I know y'all do too. And besides losing programs and so on, many, many capable students that deserve an opportunity for rewarding careers in this area are going to miss out on it. So we need to move out on that. The question is, how are your potential students, the youth, the adults, the veterans, and so forth, learning about your program? Is it through general college outreach efforts? Most of you don't think that's highly effective because it's pretty broad. Are there recruiters dedicated to reaching students for enrollment in photonics? We've seen that to be very, very effective, but we think that in the future that's going to be very limited. In many cases, we see that nearly all the recruitment effort is from the faculty, and the faculty sometimes are overwhelmed and overworked trying to do all this and to make up for all this. And that just burns out faculty if that's all they're doing. And, you might want to look at how much of your time is this required. We know that dedicated student recruitment pays off. We supported student recruiters in 19 colleges, OP-TEC has, over the last 3 or 4 years. And the regional centers are also supporting student recruiters through their partner colleges and other efforts. The recruitment efforts that focus on photonics have proven to be effective to build recruitment. I think the first one was 9 years ago when Chris moved into that and kind of opened our eyes on that. And Indian River went from a program that was about to die to a program that almost maxed out in enrollment in a few years. So we know we need to do that. One of the things we do know, and I can report this from some communications that Chris has had with NSF, that in the future, NSF does not encourage our centers to allocate grant money to be used to directly support student recruitment in local colleges. Chris learned about that during some of his negotiations. We know that that's happening. Our center is phasing into a support center. We won't have the room. So new subgrants will not be awarded in the future that will support student recruitment. I'd say, after October 31st, we're not going to see that, at least out of NSF ATE funds. Most 2-year colleges just don't have the budgets to pay for dedicated recruiters. Their outreach money supports information and events that are aimed for broad departmental and general studies and transfer programs. And I'm telling you things you already know. Focused recruitment is typically left up to the program faculty, and the program faculty have little time and assistance to plan and execute these recruitment efforts. But we do know that existing students, and we've got good examples, existing students can provide a valuable asset for outreach and recruiting of new students. Gary, you want to talk about your experience at Central Carolina?
Well, this is my 16th year, and I've always used student recruiters in the past on a voluntary basis to help me at career fairs, go with me at high schools, and things like that. And then, as Dan talked about, when I became a sub-award of the grant, I started hiring a full-time, part-time recruiter, and I went outside at first, and that person didn't work out because they weren't as dedicated to it as I would like. So I had a student at the time that was very capable, and he became my part-time recruiter as a student, and that worked out so well, except for losing them when they get a job, that I decided to split it between 2 people, and so I ended up with 2 part-time recruiters recruiting for the school, and they just work so well at it that they know the program, they know what's required in the program, they're all excited about the jobs and the opportunities, and they can talk to these students and explain all the things about how much homework there is involved, how much math there is, They can answer all the questions that students have out there, like what type of job, what do I do when I get outside? They're familiar with those types of questions. And recruitment opportunities, we go into high schools and talk to students in classes. We go to career fairs. We do workshops, both weekend Saturday workshops. In fact, we did one last Saturday. We do summer workshops. We do 8th grade tours through our program where we talk to all the 8th graders in the county. They cycle them through here. In fact, next week we have school coming through, about a half a day of students coming through and touring the program. We get to talk to each group about 15 to 20 minutes, tell them about the program and show them some lasers. You know, we use current students and other students also that are not involved as a full-time, part-time recruiter. They help out with events, say as 8th grade tours and things like that, that they want to get involved. So, you know, we have a lot of students helping with recruiters. Recruiter assignments, my students have to help me with touring prospective students, because I continuously have prospective students calling and wanting to do a tour or wanting to come in and shadow students in classrooms and everything. Well, I put my student recruiters up front to work with them and talk to them and spend a lot of time with them. As far as tools, we have a presentation, we have various kits that we use for lasers, demonstration, we have a laser light show, we have anything that might excite students. And of course, we use previous student photos in the workplace and what they're doing so we can talk about the success out there that we have. Leadership requires constant guidance and preparation because, as you know, students graduate. So I have other student recruiters that come on board. They require training. They require preparation. They require, most of them, some of them can walk in and have a lot of, say, presentation skills already. It depends on their background. You have to introduce them to your network of high schools and counselors and all the people out there that you deal with. They have to schedule all of the events. They have to work it into their schedule as to when they can do it and everything. Do a lot of juggling around of time and commitment. What makes it work successfully is you have students in your program that are preparing for a career, and they're already very excited about being in the program, and so they're willing to share that excitement with others because someone usually shared it with them. Issues, you know, you have to make sure that the students are there to help others and not, I mean, you can't have someone with the wrong attitude going into a classroom with a teacher or other students, and you have to learn how to control rowdy students. And even in a 15-minute group tour coming through, you have times of an 8th grader that can't be still, maybe. You have to know how to deal with that. So it helps develop students all around. It helps develop the recruiters. It helps to develop them in presentations, in project management, and things of that nature. In the photos, you can see my students in the top left, that International Year of Light event. My student recruiters organized that whole thing. That was a huge project management activity. They have it on their resume as managing it. In the upper right-hand corner, that was my first student recruiter. That was his designated job. Al DeLong. He's out at Lawrence Livermore National Labs now. The lower left-hand corner, that's a workshop students helped me with, a Saturday workshop of middle school students, doing those frequently. And in the bottom right-hand corner, all those students at some time helped me as student recruiters. Does anyone have any questions?
Gary, how much do you, can you give us a hint how much you pay these students per hour?
Well, that's going away.
It's got to be zero, Fred.
Yeah.
Yeah, I realize that, but you know, that all depends on how much time that student has to work and if it's going to be worthwhile for them.
Yeah.
Well, you have to, the student has to realize, I mean, one of the best student recruiters I ever had, Teresa Geetson, she helped me tremendously, and she was never paid a dime. But what it did was it brought her out of a shell to where she could communicate effectively with people, present effectively to people, and guess what? She's in R&D now at Photonics Devices. She's been promoted up, and she just keeps doing well and excelling at that company.
We're going to move on to the next one. Dorian, how about you talking to us about what you're doing at Tri-County?
Hey, everybody. One thing I wanted to mention is after what Gary was saying, and I heard some questions about paying students and things like that. Well, what we do at the college here is we're required to incorporate HIPS, high impact practices, into all of our courses. So one of the things I've done for several years is what we call service learning, which is basically an outreach to the community that I have my students get involved in, and they get a grade for it. So really the pay is the grade. But what they're required to do is we visit a K through 8 school, and we put on a STEM show, and the theme of that STEM show is either going to be multidisciplinary, or it could be photonics or electric circuits. We use different courses to do this. And what you get from that is you get this excitement. The students really enjoy it. My students enjoy it. The K through 12 students enjoy it. And the teachers suddenly become your best friend. You know, they love it when you can go and teach their kids and entertain their kids, and they'll come to you when they've got questions about things that they can do in the classroom to make the classroom more interesting. Give them suggestions that are photonics related, or whatever you want to use, whatever you want to get out there. So it's sort of a passive recruiting is what we do. I've never really done any active recruiting in the sense of having to put a lot of work into it. It just happens as a result of the activities that we get engaged in. One of the things we do is this summer camps. We've done those for years, and we've made a lot of friends with these summer camps that we typically use the Arduino. As Natalia was talking about, we use the Arduino sort of a catalyst for these camps that we do that integrate a lot of photonics into them, LEDs, lasers, things like that. We have heard from students coming back from in middle school that came to the college because they had these good experiences here at the college.
Dorian, can you talk a little bit about the students' projects to develop exhibits?
Yeah, okay. So, really, if you look at your potential students, if you can bring it to the program, you can break them up into, these new students that are on the outside that haven't been to college yet. But another source is existing students at the college. So, a long time ago, I realized, what we need to do is my students have to work on projects that they showcase. We invite the faculty, we invite students to come to this showcase, and we usually have it in the cafe. And we invariably get certain students that come into the program because they saw what we were doing and they love the project-based aspects of what we do. So I have students come to me and say, look, I was at this showcase, and it looks like what you're doing is the kind of stuff I would like to be doing. So, case in point is this picture I've got here of this multidisciplinary project. But this is a hexapod, a pneumatic hexapod that we built, and it incorporates all types of different sensors, including light sensors, and we actually put this a light strip around it to kind of attract attention to it. But this is a walking machine. It's controlled by a PLC and everything else. So we try to make these multidisciplinary projects because you can really get a lot more bang for your buck by making a multidisciplinary. And I never saw a problem with that. If you can interest people in any particular subject, then that's the way to go.
Let me just say that I spent a lot of time talking to Dorian and with Gary and with Greg and Frank up at Indian Hills and others about the kinds of things they've been doing to use students to recruit. And it was based on that and my perception as an employer. I was an employer for 14 years and hired new technicians and new engineers. And when I could hire someone who had soft skills, they stood far and above the others. So soft skills were as important to me as their technical skills. And I'm saying that I think it's reasonable to embed that into courses, these assignments into courses, and measure the effect of the students that are learning soft skills. I created that monograph on pages 13 through 16. I've laid out a process that I think is effective, and I've played it out with Gary and Dorian and others, Frank and others, and it's taking this, making an assignment in one of your classes for the students to be involved in this, and I laid out the area that would to do that. You organize them into groups. You can give them all the learning experience of project management, leadership, planning and goal setting, scheduling, working in teams, looking at your quality, looking at the quality of your coworkers, evaluating them, managing your budgets, managing the tools that you've got, managing other people and so forth. And then you look at the soft skills that come out of that with things like communications, data collection, record keeping, coordination, resource allocation and management, interacting with the community to establish events, standards of quality, and so forth. Those kind of things are really important. So what we've laid out is a process. We looked at the faculty role, what the faculty would have to do, and it's a little work on the front end, but I think it will relieve the faculty of a lot of work as they go forward. And I'm not going to go through all these because we're going to run out of time, but we'll have copies of all these that you can have. But to create the assignments, to discuss project management, to get them organized, to assign them recruiting responsibilities, help them learn to work in teams, encourage them to do the kind of things they need to do, participate initially in the events at least to make sure they're going to get it right, and then turn them loose and let them evaluate each other, and then assign grades on it, and then revise your plan for the next semester. So we've asked that, and I'm asking Taylor to help 7 colleges that are going to be pilot testing this spring. We'll take any others if you need them to. Taylor?
Yeah, we're doing the pilot test on this student recruiting monograph. Like Dan said, we've got the 7 colleges. And our goal here is to kind of gauge how the students do recruiting, see if we can have any measure of the effectiveness, and in large part work on the soft skills that we've already discussed. Each college is going to have their own plan that is unique to their student size and their audiences that they are targeting. We're going to be getting in touch by teleconference every couple of weeks as we go through the pilot test, and hopefully we will have a report ready for you guys at High-Tech so we can tell you how it went and what things we've learned for it, and from there we can put it into practice in the fall. The monograph that we're basing a lot of this on has tools and materials. It has lists of things that are available from technical societies, from OP-TEC, from the regional centers. And there's also a huge list of suggested recruiting events. There are a lot of great ideas for you as you are working on your own recruiting. And so we're going to be supporting the colleges as we do this pilot test and looking at how we can bring it to you as the OPCN in the fall.
Thank you. We just have a few more minutes left, but if you have any questions or comments, incidentally, if you're not one of these 7 colleges that are pilot testing and you want a pilot test, we would be more than happy to involve you in it. We'll get you involved in the teleconferences. And I've listed that monograph. It shows where you can go on our website and you can download it. Comments and questions? Any other comments or concerns or anything about this whole idea? There are issues you've got to worry about. You don't pay the students. Some think they will need to reimburse the students for their travel expenses and things like that. But I think these are all local issues that different colleges can deal with. Gordon, I think we're about to wrap up.
Yes. Yeah. If nobody has any questions or comments or concerns, then yeah, I guess we're done. So thank you. We're finishing up right on time.
Thank you.